I've been in a slump lately, and then I watched this video from Steve Gutenberg. And, sometimes he was basically saying in this video that sometimes life doesn't give you the life that you want, but you make the most of the life that you have. I never expected to get motivational advice from or to be reassured by Steve Gutenberg, star of Police Academy and Cocoon. More recently, he was on an episode of Party Down called Steve Gutenberg's Birthday. It's probably the best, most singular episode of the whole series, by the way, if you're wondering. You've stumbled into a podcast. It's Binge-Watchers podcast with yours truly, Johnny Spoiler. I only spoil the movies that I love. Joined as always by the Savage Scream Queen herself, Jordan Savage.
Yes.
And we also are joined tonight by a panelist, a killer showrunner of killer shows. Dara's latest project is Amazon Prime's video, The Horror of Dolores, Roach.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, this is awesome.
So grateful.
I also want to plug that you're the co-creator of the true crime sensation, one of our favorites. We'll get into that a little bit more detail. Home Before Dark on Apple TV. She's also produced the original Daredevil. Come on, guys, on Netflix. And also, I Love Dick with Catherine Hahn and Kevin Bacon. She's done a lot more than just that, but I just wanted to mention some of the highlights that I really enjoy. And then we can get into more stuff later. I should also bring up, if you go to adameve.com, you get 50% off with our code BWPod. The same snazzy code can unlock deals on manscaped.com for 20% off. And our new boy, Waterboy, /BWPod, will unlock 15% off on their website. We'll be right back with some home video headlines. Dara's going to stick around. If she can handle it, we'll take the ride. We'll find out what's going on with this movie of the week called The Wind.
That's the part I can't handle.
Find out why right after this.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
Headlines. Let's see what's going on. MGM Studios branch of Amazon is developing a Poltergeist TV series, reviving the horror franchise in a new format. I find this interesting. I mean, I think like in the early, was it Poltergeist 1999? They did a TV series of Poltergeist once already. They tried to bring it into like a paranormal investigation style show, right? With like these well-educated British laureates, more globetrotting poltergeist activity. But I just think if you get back to Carol Ann and the sister Dana, and then you do like maybe find somebody to play the psychic Tangina, right? And then get to, I don't know if you get to Kane, I don't know, the creepy old man ghost who has had some beef with everybody for like 3 or 4 movies. Like I don't know if you get there, but it would be cool to see like it could make a series, right? I mean, Dara, what do you think? Like, would you develop a show like that, and where would it go?
I would totally develop that show. Yeah, I mean, no one asked me, but I would 1,000% I'd do that show. I mean, there's a tonal. It's really interesting. So Poltergeist is one of our favorites in this house, partially because I have the reason I made Home Before Dark was because I have like a weird child who loved like creepy things really early on. So Poltergeist was her first horror movie. She was like 8 years old. And she no longer thinks it's scary at all. She falls asleep during most of these movies at this point, which is wild to me because it was very scary to me. But like, I think if you take any great setup, the idea of like the suburbs expanding into a place that they shouldn't be expanding into is still a current idea. That's not something that's gotten better in American culture. And what is the horror of that? And you can hear my dogs agreeing that it's horrible.
Oh, they're in for it. Nice. And then I heard that Sydney Sweeney was joining the cast with Jude Law and Ana de Armas in Ron Howard's new movie. It's supposed to be called Eden. It's rumored to be based on a true crime style mystery that happened in like one of the Galapagos Islands in like the 30s. It's like a thing that unraveled between like 2 or 3 intertwining families, and of course there's an affair, right? That's what kicks this thing off, right? So anyway, I mean, I don't know. I'm a diehard fan of Ron Howard, so I mean, I'm kind of
Me
on board
too.
for it.
Yeah,
That's not
speaking
like-
my language.
That's not like de rigueur anymore, is it? To be like, I love Ron Howard, but like I fucking love Ron Howard.
Sydney Sweeney, Jude Law. I mean, you're talking about Galapagos Islands murder mystery. Can you get really anything better, in my opinion?
Where are they going to shoot the Galapagos Islands, though?
Well, that's the question. If they're going to have something stand in for it, right? But that's not. I mean, that's not one of those things you can easily go back to like Vancouver for, or Atlanta, Georgia for. You know what I mean? Like, so the favorites are out. You know what I mean? They got to make a mock island, right?
I mean, I like Puerto Rico. I'm trying to think of the places that I know of that people like ask me to shoot because it's cheap. The Galapagos Island would be like not at all a cheap place to shoot.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it would. Yeah,
so
it's awesome.
And horror movies, as you know, part of what makes horror a great genre is you can make these movies for very little money and they do well.
Yeah, I mean, if you come up with a good premise, you can invoke like primal fear that's built into our hardware or whatever, right? Then like it works every time. But you're right, like these low budget things, as long as the concept is there, people will be in for it. That's for sure.
I mean, that was the whole concept behind the horror of Dolores Roach, which I know we'll talk about later. But it was what's the horror of the possible in your neighborhood, right? Like what happens just downstairs. It's the kind of thing that, like, in theory, I mean, obviously we had real studio money, but like we could have shot. I felt like we could have shot that like for YouTube.
But you're trying to get us like super worried about all of our neighbors now, like even more worried than we already are. 100%.
That was absolutely our intention.
Well, it's working.
So, Jordan, you don't have to worry about somebody stealing your bike. You gotta be worried about ending up in an empanada somewhere.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
You
end up in a fried food dish.
Exactly.
A deli
nice
special.
Tasty snack, you know?
And that was the idea of the beginning was like, they're talking about all those news stories. There are all kinds of stories that are true life stories about people ending up in tamales and empanadas and bone marrow and,
Yeah, real life is a lot freakier than make-believe, that's for sure. I'll say that. Like, the only real monsters are like actual human beings, right? Like the most dangerous stuff, the craziest things is just stuff that's built into like our species. It's crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. And it's what we don't know that scares us the most, which is why all those early Spielberg movies do so, the Jaws and all of that, like not being able to see what the monster is so much scarier.
Which ties in, thank you for saying that, because it actually ties in my last update for the evening is that they're going to do another spinoff of like a remake of like a Jules Verne, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but they're concentrating on Captain Nemo and Nautilus. And it's supposed to be like what are the early years? So Shah, I think his name is Shah Zayad Latif. He was in Star Trek Discovery. His character was like really complex. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Star Trek Discovery, any Star Trek fans,
which you should,
it might get ruined for you. So he's like a Klingon that they transmogrify into being like a human plant. Like they make him like a sleeper cell among the humans or whatever. So, and then he has like conflicted loyalties as his character evolves. But I've never seen this actor before until this Star Trek Discovery, but he's one to watch. And so it's kind of cool to see that he's going to take the reins, so to speak, or whatever, be the captain. And
my daughter's a huge Disney nerd too. And when I brought up this 20,000 Leagues thing with her, I was like so excited to bring it up and realize that like I've been taking her to Disneyland. I'm a Disney adult. I've been taking her to Disneyland, but only since 20,000 Leagues has basically become Finding Nemo. So she was like, what's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? I literally have an old copy of it, like right here on my bookshelf. I was like, it's a book that's sitting on that bookshelf right now. So I feel like
there's also have you heard of the Atlantis cartoon that Disney made? Like,
I have. She's seen that.
Michael J. Fox. Yeah, I was going to say that borrowed a lot from Jules Verne. A lot.
Yeah. There's a lot of Jules Verne in Disney stuff. I mean, Walt Disney was very inspired by that sort of, realistic sci-fi fantasy world that he created.
Jordan, you got some savage stats on tonight's movie?
I do got some savage stats for The Wind, 1986. So it's a popular crime novelist, a popular crime novelist moves to a historic Greek village during the off season in order to write her next book, but gets more than she bargained for when she strongly suspects a handyman of committing murder, starring Meg Foster and Wings Hauser. Meg Foster's striking blue-grayish eyes with small pupils made her a go-to choice for sci-fi and fantasy roles. She humorously claims she brings a free special effect to every project. You can definitely see them in this movie. They'd be popping. She's best known for playing Evil Lynn in Masters of the Universe and drawing inspiration from Lady Macbeth. Wings Hauser is a beloved B-movie actor with famous radio star father. His son, Cole Hauser, is known for his role in Yellowstone. We recently discussed Wings in our episode on Pale Blood. And then according to IMDb, the film originally had an alternate title, Edge of Terror, to avoid associations with flatulence that can come to mind with the term The Wind.
Where did you find that? Where'd that bit come from?
I had to dig for that one, but then I had to back it up on IMDb, and I had to I only found one interview with the director, and then I found a website that had done a review, like a way back website, like websites that are like junked, right? And you have to dig them up. But I wanted to have multiple sources, inspired by some of the stuff that you put out there. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just total bogus, Wanted to try to do my due diligence there.
You did.
I almost put it out that Masters of the Universe is like one of my favorite movies of all time, but I held my tongue. I said,
I would love to rewatch that. Actually, that would be a good exercise to follow this up with.
Yeah. Oh, and I almost gave it away too early that Pale Blood has a superior performance by Wings Hauser than The Wind. So, but I don't want to get to the favorite bits of the ratings so early. Sometimes it's hard not to jump ahead.
It's hard to not divulge, what's to come in the show,
But we'll be right back with our favorite messages. No, we'll be right back with our favorite bits from The Wind right after these messages. Friends, lovers, and listeners, lend me your ears because I got a sweet surprise. It's time to stuff your stockings. That's right. The one-stop holiday gift shop is wide open at adameve.com. We got a great offer for you. 50% off any item on the website, most of the items anyway. Free shipping and fast processing on your order with our code BWPOD. You want better sex? You want to start having better sex right away? Want to knock out them sensations? The best way to get started is to go to adameve.com right now. Adam Eve is offering 50% off almost any item, plus free shipping and fast processing. More than that, Adam and Eve wants to make your life easy. They're going to offer discreet shipping, as your privacy is a free shipping and fast processing on your entire order. Doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy, all will be packaged and sent discreetly for free and fast. Don't wait. Better sex is just a click away. It's 50% off one item, free shipping, and fast processing. Bring more pleasure and satisfaction into your bedroom. Just go to adameve.com and select any one item. Could be an adventurous new toy or anything you desire. Or how about a book of Santa's secret coupons? Just enter code BWPOD at checkout. That's BWPOD, BWPOD at adameve.com. This offer is exclusive to this podcast, so be sure to use our code BWPOD to get your discount. 100% free shipping and get it fast. With our code BWPOD. Gentlemen across the nation, I got an urgent message for you. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. The brand that took your balls to space is now launching them into the ultrasphere, introducing the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Featuring a new cutting-edge design and next-generation dual skin-safe blade heads for different shaves. It's pretty much a spaceship to take your boys downstairs to the next level. So go ahead. Join 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra by going to manscaped.com for 20% off, plus free shipping with the code BWPOD. High tech for low places at Manscaped. I thought I had pretty much every Manscaped product, and my deal is like this. I got to shave about every 2 days, and I don't want to take like a bunch of razors through the airport in my carry-on or my check bag even. I don't want to go through all that hassle. It's a weird thing I think about. And then I got the handyman, and I'm like, oh, this is like the best thing Manscaped's come up with. And then they drop the Lawnmower 5.0 on me. What? And every man knows how scary it can be when going in for a close shave below the waist. That's why I've come to trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas. I'm lucky enough to be one of the first that tried the 5.0 Ultra. And let's just say, calling it a game changer, that's an understatement. It's Manscaped's 5th generation trimmer. It's got 2 next-gen interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, a standard trimmer for taking a little bit off the top, and then it's got a new foil blade to go in for that smooth finish wherever your heart desires. Use your imagination. No more wet shaving down there? Count me in. This bad boy also features 2 LED spotlights to provide contrast on multiple skin tones so you can shed some light on your darkest places. A little hard to see in those cracks and crannies trying to get a clean shave, It's even. Taking it on the go, Manscaped has you covered. This puppy comes with a travel case and even a travel lock feature to avoid any accidental powering and weird looks in the airport. That's right. It's on the cutting edge of cutting pubes. Upgrade your ball trimmer and your life will follow. Get 20% off plus that free shipping with the code BWPOD at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping with the code BWPOD at manscaped.com. Your balls have been through enough. It's time to go to Ultra with Manscaped. With the holidays approaching, our sponsor Waterboy is here to help you prepare for those nasty holiday hangovers. There's nothing worse than feeling like the Grinch or everybody else in the family is rocking around the Christmas tree. You know what I'm saying? Waterboy is a hydration powder scientifically formulated to cut your hangover time in half. There are other hydration packs on the market, but nothing comes anywhere close to fighting those Sunday scaries like Waterboy. With 0 sugar and over 3 times the electrolytes of liquid IV, your hangover will stand no chance. Unlike their competitors, Waterboy has added specific ingredients beyond just hydration to help with the nausea, the anxiety, and the fatigue. We all know that hydration alone isn't enough to help after a holiday bender. It's not just you. Waterboy's hangover recovery formula makes a thoughtful stocking stuffer or a fantastic gift for your loved ones. Show them you care about their well-being this holiday season. For this holiday season, our listeners can get 15% off their entire order with our exclusive link at waterboy.com/BWPod. Man, here's the thing. In my business, things are pretty social. You end up attending parties, right? To network, to work on creative deals or projects or whatever. So you got to go to parties. Sometimes you got to be the life of the party. The problem with being the life of the party is maybe you end up having some drinks, right? And then, who knows? Maybe you have a great party. Maybe you make a lot of great connections. But the next day, you're dead. You're just dying. And it would be great if you could just get through this holiday season and all these meetings and parties and events, a little bit easier. I was actually pretty blown away because it seemed to really balance me out when I tried the Waterboy. I really like the lemon lime. I'm almost tempted actually to make a drink out of it, like a margarita, but then I'm like, oh, that kind of defeats the purpose of why you're taking the tonic in the first place, right? That's not recommended, right? So anyway, a little more about Waterboy. Most hydration powders are packed so full of sugar that they cause you to crash even harder. Not to mention you have to drink so many of them to get the electrolyte replenishment that your body really needs to recover. Waterboy has over 9 times the electrolytes as a Gatorade. Inside each stick, there's ginger for that nausea, and they make your tummy feel better. They also have stuff to help you calm your nerves and reduce your anxiety. Maybe the best part about Waterboy is how amazing it tastes. Some of their popular flavors include strawberry lemonade, blue raspberry, and my personal favorite, lemon lime. You're going to actually want to drink these. At least the lemon lime. That's a killer flavor. Waterboy is also gluten-free, caffeine-free, dairy-free, vegan, and it's made right here in the US of A. A lot of things get worse as you get older, but your hangovers don't have to. Waterboy isn't a magic cure, but it's pretty darn close to one. Hundreds of thousands of people already trust Waterboy as their hangover cure. It's time to start dealing with that anxiety alone. For a limited time, our listeners could get an exclusive 15% off discount with our link at waterboy.com/BWPod. That's 15% off waterboy.com/BWPod. It's time to ho-ho hydrate this holiday season. Now back to the podcast already in progress. Favorite bits from The Wind, 86. Wings Hauser, Meg Foster, Steely Blue Eyes. Can they save the movie? We'll find out. Since we have a panelist tonight, should we let her?
Let's start with the
Wait. Are
panelist.
you a she, her?
I am a she, her. Thank you for asking.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. Okay. So, Dara, what do you think are your favorite bits from the? And here's the funny thing is, you can pick horrible bits actually, even though it's called favorite bits, or you can just say like, what's the best of the worst thing that you had to watch? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be a favorite moment, but it could be something that's interesting.
Am I allowed to? Can I spoil? Is it stuff that's like okay to be like spoiled for folks who are listening? I can spoil things.
Yeah, that's part of the game.
Okay, sure. Just want to make sure. Yeah, I was like a little disappointed that the old man didn't come back. Like, I was like, there's like they make this meal out of this old man at the top, and he's being so nice, and I was like, oh, is he going to be the murderer? And then I was like, oh no, he like gets murdered and goes away and like never comes back. That was for me like the weirdest part of that movie. I know there's a lot of weird parts in that movie, but for me, in terms of like structurally, I was kept like waiting for that guy to return, and he just.
That's one of those things that I wrote down as like the Hitchcock cameo ? Because there's no payoff, right? It goes back to the thing we're talking about, like, what does the story follow?
That's right. Like, there's this really long monologue. You're like going down the stairs He's saying all these nice things. You're like, oh, okay, this is all going to amount to something. There's like a bit in this that's going to come back later. It doesn't. It doesn't come back. Spoiler alert, nothing comes back.
It could be on the movie poster, like.
So what was your favorite part or weirdest part?
I liked the conversation that Elias, the old man, has with the main character. What's her name? Yeah, Sean. Yeah, Sean Anderson. Because for some reason, I don't know why the killer ends up switching over to only referring her to Anderson. For the rest of the movie. Yeah, Anderson. But
they lose the first name basis. They're no longer intimate. They're more formal.
Which is weird because I feel like you
falling out of good graces, I guess, with the maniac.
But I feel like you switch to last names when you're like, you kind of cross over the thing of being friends or like buddies or teammates. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just thought that was a little interesting that he's like no longer referring to her by her first name, Sean. But I just thought it was funny. Like, I feel like that was such a kind of relatable moment of, you're walking with this older man and he's kind of calling you some pet names, but he's like also really like non-threatening, and he goes on his way, and then he just like never really comes back until you see his like little finger and ring sticking out of the dirt. I also didn't really understand, and I don't know if maybe you two can help talk me through it, because this is kind of like, like a pre-version, an adult version of Home Alone, right? Sean is like begging the whole night, right?
She starts to booby trap the house. She's a mystery expert. Okay.
That's adult Home Alone.
Yes, she's like, pouring stuff into his eyes through the cracks of, the holes that he's stabbing through, the floor, and she's rigging everything up to defend herself. She's holding down the fort. But like, I didn't understand how, like, what really hit him, the killer.
When she does that final booby trap?
Yes, the final booby trap. Was it just the wind had hit the knife that went into him?
Sickle, what I thought happened was, and you're right, it would have been better to see it, but maybe it seemed like such a cheap move. My like take on, and I tried to go down the rabbit hole to find this, my take on how this movie came to be was that Nico, whatever his name is, the director, had like access to a cool house in Greece and was like, I'll just like make a low budget movie with two people like killing each other in a low budget house in Greece. So like, I just wonder if that effect didn't come out well. But what I mentally thought happened was that like, she does the thing and it goes like sproing, and then the like shutter, the window shutter sproinged, and he stabbed himself with his giant sickle. And you think he's dead. That was a cool surprise.
Yeah, there's like a continuity problem because he was trying to get through the shutters to get to her, right?
Yeah. Right.
And it's right after my favorite bit, because my favorite bit is that she doubles down on one of those Home Alone style things you're talking about. She doubles down in the boiling pot of boiling water, right?
Yes.
He got the sickle or the hand scythe, whatever it's called, stuck in the shutter. So the blade was there. So basically she just popped the shutter back, and he got hit with his own weapon. But he's using it after it gets stuck. So it's kind of an issue.
Right, because he's like crawling on the roof, right?
Yeah.
He's not like using it, but I recall it being like in his hand
but
as he's
I
like.
want to rewind because like he keeps coming back for Misery, but I want to rewind to what you said a moment ago about like gosh, now I'm gonna forget. Oh, the setting of the movie. Yeah, so the director was doing another movie, which I forget what it's called, but like it's basically like an extraterrestrial movie or something, right? Because like I don't know if it's like the ET craze is happening at the same time, but he's on that island shooting another movie, and the wind was causing problems for the production. So then he's like, "Oh, let's make a movie about," as you said, let's make a movie about the wind, right?
Sure.
Because they have access to this location. It's
like fuck
I
it,
feel like
make another movie. Why not?
Make the most
but the
of it.
settings. I mean, the one merit the movie has going for it is the killer setting, right?
It's a very cool setting. I actually think, given that they probably shot this super fast, I thought it was pretty well shot. Like I was like, okay, like some good production value and all. It actually made me. It was like an example for me of like, if you have a good script, and I don't think, I'm so sorry to the screenwriter. I can't remember his name. I looked it up. I did not think this was a great script. I felt like, but if you had a great script and you placed those two actors who are both like sort of decent B movie actors in that setting, you probably could have had like a really decent movie. It just was sort of, it's like the thing we were talking about at the top, like we all were kind of hoping that like this genial guy who's giving her all of this like long monologue about stuff is going to come back in some way or turn out to be not what we thought. What's his character paradox? What's like the big surprise? I always tell my students, like, what's the surprise in every scene? What's the big surprise, at the end of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3? And once we meet Wings Hauser, that's his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once we meet Wings Hauser.
His name is Phil in the movie, but the actor is Wings.
We meet Phil, who seems like a Wings. And when the second we meet him, we kind of
talk about typecasting, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't. Like, there's no protagonism there, right? There's no, like, he doesn't start off one way and you go, oh, I'm so surprised. It's a completely different thing. You're like, no, he's the killer. And he turns out to be a totally psychotic killer.
And just like openly admits it too, like in the script, right? It's like, I'm the killer. Yeah.
Okay. And he needs like two scenes. Like, we need to know that I guess they would have to go Norman Bates with him, right? Like where he has an obsession and has killed in the past, but he's trying to avoid killing in the future. But now she's there on the island, right?
Yeah.
And he gives into his whims or whatever, his psychosis. And before that, he needs something that ramps him up because they go from 0 to 100 Wings Hauser, right? Like he walks to the door and he's already snapped. In his other movies, he ramps up to it. So you feel like he's doing it as like his thing, his performance. But in here, it's like 0 to 100. It's like the Tesla where you hit like mod C or ludicrous mode, whatever they call it these days.
Ludicrous speed.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like he just hits that button right away. Because there's no anticipation of it or lead up. We don't understand why it's necessarily happening, or that he's just like he's like that all the time.
Or even the easiest way to go would have been like they sleep together by the end of Act 1. And then it's like a jagged edge kind of structure where it's like, oh, what do you do when you're this person who writes these creepy stories and you think you understand things about character and then you slept with the wrong guy? Like, at least, I don't know. But it's sort of like you said, it goes from 0 to 100 and then never changes. He's just there for like the last 2/3 of the movie.
I like that the alternate idea there, maybe that they had a little bit of romance on the island,
Yeah, you're in Greece, like have her like, she gets like she cheats on her husband or whatever. Like that's another thing. I did love the depiction of the folks in LA. Mm-hmm. It was very 1980s LA. Like I moved out here in 2001, and like that was my vision of like what people in LA and what LA totally.
Well, it's funny too when she's with her girlfriends at the lunch table. She's kind of alluding to that. She's like so excited for her vacation and how like the one thing that she doesn't like is these long relationships, and she's like trying to escape her husband, right? And so, a little romance could have like tied that in a little bit.
I don't know. Your boyfriend can buy a Goodyear blimp, but he can't show up at the island with his blimp to save you, or like
he's taking a swim when you're asking for the police.
That was my disconnect for me. Like early on, is like it's hard for me to care about people that have the ability to get a Goodyear blimp to celebrate
Totally.
anniversary. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh man, like we're wearing a different collar here. You know what I mean? I was like so like disassociated with like what was happening. I was like, okay, yeah, all right, you know.
And also
Why?
that guy in the Stanford hat at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, yeah, like the vacationing Americans that come in for no reason.
That
Yeah.
also is
The
just sort of
distraction.
like, let's just like hang out in this car for a minute and talk to these people who don't actually end up having anything to do.
So
with
I
it.
just thought it was
anything with
it was
the
going to be a
story, yeah.
bloodlust reason. I thought they were just trying to amp up the body count there at the end to make it more exciting. But then it's kind of like a throwaway, right? Because they come into the plot and then they leave. And I'm just like, the only thing I could think was like another example of people that can't help her and she's still stranded.
Right.
But I mean, I guess we kind of arrived at the ratings and kind of like what happens at the end kind of shifts my rating. So, but anyway, folks, you know how this goes on the show. Binge now, you got to watch it now, add it to your playlist. Binge later, get around to it. Binge never, you can't get the 90 minutes back. I've wasted my life and my time. What's going to happen? Jordan, you want to kick off the ratings and then we'll have our
Sure.
panelist and then I'll throw mine in.
I feel like I'm just like so reluctant to give binge nevers these days. Like I have to be really
Like you're just being
binge-never-y.
nice. I mean, we tried to save the plot a couple minutes ago, but I don't know.
We did. I'll say it's a binge later for me. I didn't think it was a complete waste of 90 minutes, but it was not it, you know?
It was not it.
It was not it. Dara, what do you think? What would you rate it?
I think like it's somewhere between binge never and binge later, depending on the setting. Like I was really happy that I watched it because I don't know, we watch a lot of good stuff in our careers and you sort of go like, oh wow, will I ever make anything like that? But I was like, hey, that's a movie that got made and I know I could do that. So that made me feel good. I also, I do like bad movie watching with a couple of friends. Shout out to Lucas O'Connor from my show Home Before Dark. We will like, we watch like Joe's Apartment and stuff like that and do like a mystery science theater kind of thing. So if you have like a group of friends that you do that kind of thing with, this is a good choice for like bad movie night that will beget a lot of hilarious commentary. Also, if you're a big fan of apparently Wings Hauser was drug addled for a lot of that. That was what some of the online stuff. So if you like to watch stuff where people are like probably on cocaine and a shit ton of alcohol, also fun for that reason, but not as a movie.
For sure.
No, there's one scene in the movie he's coming down. I think he's playing with the apples or the bread for no reason. It's not even his business in the scene. He just does it, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's like
wildly high. Yeah,
doing the jaw thing. You're like, okay, all right, yeah, okay,
yeah.
John, what would you rate it, John?
Oh man, so here's the thing, because I feel like the ending really, really bothers me because like she's putting up a hell of a fight. She's an experienced mystery writer. The Home Alone tricks that you mentioned earlier were working, and then like a deus machina or an act of God, so to speak, or an accident prevails in the end. Like her will to fight is gone. She's on the edge of the cliff, and you just think like she's gonna have the final burst of energy in the thriller. She's gonna beat this dude, and then the wind. I should have known because the title is The Wind. They let us know right away. But spoiler alert, folks, the wind knocks him off the cliff and saves the day at the end of the thing. So I don't think the movie was going in that direction either, but somehow we ended up there. You know what I mean? Like, I thought they were going to have a final showdown when she falls in the cave below the manor house or whatever kind of cliffside, duplex this is or whatever it is. And because then she finds a murder that's like 100 years old or something. There's bones in there that are decrepit. So it's like, I mean, then you begin to wonder, like, did Phil start it or did Phil's family really start? Like, there's just too many questions at that point, right? But I can't take it back.
I wanted to know that too. Like I was like, it's another like dangling thing of like, oh, here's some bones in this like weird basement, and how long has Phil been here? No answers. Just weird Phil shit. Sorry.
You're like weird Phil shit. But he's a really bad handyman. Like the fact that he's willing to take a sickle through the attic door after his victim, I'm like, you're ruining your own work. Why would you do that? If you're a real person, put the time in. You're not going to break a door that you lacquered to put back together. You know what I mean? And also, his shirt is inexplicably dirty through like the whole. Yes. He has a sweater. I mean, we do find out that he buried the old dude, right? But Papa Greek or whatever the guy's name is, who lives on the island or who owns the house, Papa Airbnb. Like, I mean, or a poor man's, like I said, Hitchcock. You know what I mean? But
Totally.
but it doesn't make sense if he's doing work around the island. I don't know. He's got one shirt, but then later on, he's like dressed like he's going out on the town. I don't know.
That was definitely weird. Wearing a white sweater to be like a body burying murderer definitely seemed like a strange costume.
Yeah.
Choice. Like I sort of wondered like how intentional that was. Would you,
when he shows up in the leather jacket and the turtleneck or whatever it is? Yeah, like he's got the top down, cruising through Malibu or something.
so weird. It was so weird. I saw the wind thing coming. What I didn't see coming was the wildly bizarre look on his face as he fell off the cliff. Like it was like the wind. He was like, whoa, whoa.
Well, again, like suspend your disbelief, right? It's like an actor. It's like telling an actor, there's a robot right here, but it's a volleyball on a 9-foot pole. But that's a robot that's about to eat the whole world, and like you got the key to save the magic power. So you want the method actor to go like, oh, okay, yeah. So imagination, okay, like it's a 9-foot tall robot about to eat the world. I got the key. So you don't know in that moment if it's Wings doubting the concept of like, you mean a gust of wind knocked me, Wings Hauser, off a cliff? I mean, like, because okay, I just wanted to put out like a personal disclaimer. I don't know you, Wings. I don't know your family. I watch a lot of your movies, guy. I appreciate what you do, but I think like you have a perception about yourself as being like one of those 80s, 90s, like really hardcore, you know what I mean?
Like a real star.
Yeah, so it's like, I think he's like, Wingshauser wouldn't get knocked off the cliff by a gust of wind. And so I don't know if we're registering that in that moment, but we might be. We might be seeing the take where he's like, come on, guys, are you really going to kill me with as Jordan said, a fart? Is a fart.
Yeah.
A fart going to knock me off this cliff and I die? I'm glad they pulled back, though, and didn't show us like a rubber dummy, though. That was pretty good that we just saw the scenery. That was one. I can respect that. Like, because if would have totally been taken out of the game if we had to see like, you know, the paper mache doll roll down the cliffside. Yeah. So that's more trauma movie making. You know, I like trauma. There's a reason why, you know, the mop monster is out there. But
so would you say never or later?
Oh no, maybe I said that too quickly earlier. It's a never because
it's never for you. Okay.
Yeah,
because of the ending.
Because of the ending, yeah. I just can't.
Got it. Sorry, I think I missed that part because I was focusing on the ending being sort of exactly what. Again,
you know what?
My thing is like nothing happened that surprised me.
Yeah,
I just was like I kept being like, "Where's the surprise?" Oh, the exact thing that I thought was going to happen.
Here's the fun thing, though. People are still going to take the ride of the movie, even though maybe we like battered it a little bit because we had so much fun rewriting it, and then we talked so passionately about why we don't like it that people are still going to be like, "Oh, maybe I should go watch The Wind." You know?
I mean, I kind of hope they do, and then I hope that they find me on Instagram and like want to get into a conversation about it because I really like. This is the kind of movie I love to watch just for those conversations. Like I was excited to sit with you guys because I was like, well, this is a weird thing that I would not normally have seen.
And we talk about it all the time of how, like, honestly, the conversation that I have about the movie sometimes is the best part about the movie. So it like will teeter between ratings. You're like, it was a binge never for me, but I've been having such a good time like talking about it that I'm like, I would talk about it again. So I feel that.
I think
switching gears to fan service very quickly, fans chime in. This month we want to know what your feel-good movies of the month are, or Dara has invited you to get on our Instagram and talk about The Wind all day long.
Yes.
And I just want to say a quick
thanks into my DMs with The Wind, guys.
Oh, yeah. Just a quick thanks to Javier for saying, you guys are a blessing. That's a hardcore comment. That's from our YouTubes. And Molly just simply saying, this was so good. Thank you, Molly. And if you guys want to shout out to us, if you drop a voicemail, you get a chance to win like a movie bundle or a Voodoo gift card or something fun down the road. We got stocking stuffers around the corner as well. So maybe you'll be in line for all of stocking full of movies or something.
Do a video sub. Send us a video.
Oh, yeah. Jordan loves the videos, guys. So get those video submissions in. All right. We've arrived at staff picks. Is there something else we can talk about besides the movie of the week? Especially if you go like, why did you force us to watch The Wind? What else is going on? We actually have a showrunner who does true crime mystery killer shows, and she's here tonight. So we're going to ask her some questions about her shows and movies and her experience and all that good stuff. And then she can tell us where the audience needs to go. So after we, ask you some questions, we like to break every wall imaginable, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. It's very mechanical. Everybody knows it's a podcast. So after we ask you all these questions, then you can tell us what the audience needs to do, where they need to find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no problem. I also really want to give you my feel-good movie of the week.
Oh, sure. Yeah, like the whole month. What's your feel-good movie?
My Riz is so random, but I'm like researching this thing set in West Texas. And so my friend was like, have you seen True Stories, the Talking Heads movie? Also from weirdly 1986. And I watched it and I just was like, well, this is a delight. And why aren't we all, I mean, it's another like totally weird movie, but it was a total delight. So that's my like feel good.
Is that the one they're putting back in theaters?
If they are, I don't know. My friend was like, have you seen this movie? Because it has all this like expansive West Texas setting. And John Goodman singing Talking Head songs and the Talking Heads pretending like they're not actually narrating. It's a very strange, meta, layered, bizarro, mockumentary-ish kind of movie from the mid-'80s that feels like a delightful little time capsule. So that's my rec.
That's a good rec.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the list.
Please.
John, did you want to kick off the questions?
Oh, yeah, I'll jump right in. Okay, here we go. Do you write every day? And if so, can you share some quirky details about your process?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I do write almost every day. I love to journal. I bring my journal with me everywhere. I'm not one of those writers who writes down like all my ideas in like a little book. I actually, mostly I have my idea. I have like 1,000 Post-it notes on that thing. I try to sit and write at least a few pages every day. The latest, my process changes all the time. I have ADHD and like that hyperfocus thing is real, but only when I can find it. And so finding it is like a whole thing. I just signed up for this thing called Cave Day. This is like I am not being paid for this at all. It's like a weird sort of ADHD, like mirroring thing where you like sign up for these Zooms where you like declare what your task is with a bunch of other people who are from all over the world. And then you like monotask and just do that one thing for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours. And that's been super helpful lately. In terms of like I love to write in Vegas hotel rooms. It's really
nice.
They're like they're soundproof. So like you can sort of like really like totally hyper-focus. But then when you get bored of hyper-focus, you could just go downstairs and see a bunch of like flashy things and weird people and be inspired and then go back upstairs. Also, hot tip, really good hiking in Vegas. People don't think about that. Yeah. And I have like a little clutch of people that I've been friends with for like 20 years who I, slide my early pages to and cool. Trust them to tell me whether something fucking sucks. Nice. You need people who are going to tell you whether something fucking sucks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. No yes people. No yes people on the crew. Or the writer's room. What's a common misconception people have about showrunners?
Oh, I think one of the most common misconceptions is that the showrunner and the writer are two different people. I think the showrunner is generally, there are directors who are showrunners and there are non-writing producers who are showrunners, but mostly the showrunner is somebody who needs to be both a producer and a writer. You need to be both like business and logic minded because you need to be thinking about schedules and budgets and moving pieces around and all the logistics of physically making something. And you need to be able to like run a writer's room and be a bit of like a story, pitch fest kind of person. So for me, it's funny because I didn't move out here to be a writer. I moved out here to be a producer. I went to the Peter Stark producing program at USC and thought that like, I'll just be a producer. And then started reading these scripts and these scripts were terrible. So I was like, well, fuck it. I can at least write as well as most of these terrible people. For example, like The Wind. And then it like I was an econ major in college and it took my like econ major brain and my like logic brain and my writing brain and sort of mashed them all together into a job, which, hopefully we can all get back to soon once the actors resolve their strike.
Now, Marvel fans often discuss Marvel before Disney and Marvel after Disney. As a Marvel producer, have you noticed a difference?
Oh my God. Yeah, I did 2 shows for Marvel. I did Daredevil for Netflix, and then I just was a consultant on Echo. It seems like from what I can tell in terms of what the news is saying about what Marvel, have you guys been reading all the Marvel news this last week?
Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Echo because I had kind of a follow-up in there. Are you writing on Echo?
I did not write on Echo. Okay. I was there to be a consultant. We did the pilot for the Horror of Dolores Roach, and we were waiting for Amazon to make a decision. Marvel needed a consulting producer, which basically means you sort of come in at like on usually a weekly basis, sort of at like less than your usual rate, but like your hours can be a little bit more chill. And I was there basically just to help them, get their train on the tracks. Which I think, we did pretty successfully. By the time, so when I was at Netflix, it was, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? Jeff was running Marvel Studios, and Jeff Loeb. And then, and by the time I got back for Echo, it was Kevin Feige. Mm-hmm. And I think when Kevin is deeply involved in something, like, you saw how great WandaVision was and Loki was and all of that. Like, I think he is incredibly story-minded and really smart, and he really rolls up his sleeves to make those shows good. I think it sounds like, from what I can tell, a lot of the press this week was about, was Disney putting Lewis, the other number 2 over there, was talking about how Disney was like more. And I think that, as opposed to when we were at Netflix, where it was like there were just those 4 shows, and we were all like we each had a different level in Prospect Studios, which is also where Shondaland is and where General Hospital shoots. It's like this really cute little studio out in Silver Lake. And, all of those Netflix Marvel shows had these great little areas, and we would intersect sometimes and have these mixers. It was small. It felt like a small studio. By the time I got there for Echo, it was huge. And it sounds like what they're trying to do post-strike, especially because they had to put a pin in everything, is sort of really rein in how many they're doing, how they're doing them, the way in which they bring in writers and who those head writers are. And I really liked everybody over there. So I hope that they're able to get it on track. I know they felt disappointed with the last few things that came out for them. So
did they tap your expertise or any of your colleagues' expertise for the new Daredevil?
I have to be like very careful about what I say or don't say. Definitely they've been knocking on some of my coworkers, my former coworkers' doors for that. I don't believe any of them ended up on it ultimately. But definitely, like, the fact that I had done Daredevil for Netflix, Echo and Daredevil are actually lovers in the comics. They obviously are very far apart in age in this current mythology. And so that wasn't what we were doing. But the fact that I was steeped in some of that Marvel mythology and could, bring some Matt Murdock knowledge to the table, I think was very helpful in pitching for that show.
Shifting gears a little bit, thank you for providing us information on everything that's going on there. Can you think of a situation where you had to handle where, as a showrunner, you were trying to execute the vision, but then a director or a writer saw it differently from you? Could you tell us maybe an example of how you handled something like that?
Yeah, as a showrunner or as a younger?
Yeah, from the perspective of a showrunner, if you had a director or a writer that had a different vision than what you were trying to execute.
I mean, so the nice thing about being a showrunner is when the writer is working for you, I'm a teacher also. So one of the things I really love to do is use most of those things as like a teachable moment, right? So if the script comes in and it's a younger writer you don't really like, or even if it's a colleague who's the same sort of level as you, but you're the boss, I like to use that as, I'm very upfront. I'm such a New Yorker. Like, I'm not into like any of the LA bullshit stuff of like, oh, it was great. And then I go and hate it and rewrite it. I'll say like it was a great try, which I always believe. And here's what I would want you to do differently. And if I have time to let that person do it and like give them those notes and have them do it a second time, then I will. And if not, I'll say, this is not about you. And I always tell people, unless they are rude, like miss deadlines all the time, don't show up, all that stuff, fall asleep in the room. There are like some things that will get you fired, but I always say to people, like, you're here because you're talented. You're not getting fired. So like, take a bunch of swings, relax. I'm going to rewrite this. It doesn't feel good when you get rewritten, but I promise this is like just about me doing it the fastest possible way that will get me what I need. With directors, it's a little bit harder, especially because the DGA, you know, you can have directors who aren't doing what you ask them to do. And if you interfere a little bit too much, they can sort of dangle like, well, I'm going to call the DGA on you. Which is no one's ever said that to me. I feel like I've walked that line well, but I know how to walk it. Just by the way, one of the things we were striking for is more writers on set so that they can learn how to navigate those kinds of issues.
Mhm.
I tend to, it was easy. Weirdly, it was easier when I was a younger writer, when I wasn't the boss, because I could always sort of sidle up to a director and be like, hey, I love my job. You seem to love your job. I don't think that the showrunner is going to be happy with what you're doing. So let's like together try to cover our asses and like shoot the things that we know they're going to need in the editing room. It's interestingly, especially as a female, it's a little bit harder as the boss. You know, because I can upfront say, look, I'm not going to use that center punch shot. That's not the style of the show. We haven't used it yet. If you want to use it, that's your priority. But I'm also going to ask you as a director to please get these 5 things that I know I am going to use. So maybe you should save the thing that you really want to do until the end and do the other thing. You know, I think that it's really challenging for directors in this day and age. You know, most of the work is in television rather than in features. And the writer in television has more power. And I think that that's really hard for folks who came up through directing ranks and wanted to be like the visionary auteur. And I tell people who want to do that, please go do that. Like, write your own thing or make a small independent movie. But when you're a visiting director on an episodic set, your job is to give the showrunners, the writers, the editors, the studio, the network, what they are asking for and give them the pieces to play with later.
You know, I think I just wanted to, I was going to ask you another question, but I think I'm going to forego it because I just want to touch on you're taking those instances and making a teachable moment out of them is kind of unique. So I got to give you a lot of credit for doing that because that's not the perspective of the general Hollywood mentor or the relationship between like a journeyman writer or journeyman director and most there's a lot of I guess I could be looking at my own wounds, but I'm just saying like experientially from an industry, looking at it from a bird's eye view of what happens, that's not common. And so again, kudos to you and props. I wish I could think of a more lovely word right now, but I think that's a really unique approach. So I'll give you a lot of credit.
Thank you. I mean, look, I try to treat people the way I like to be treated. And I've been really fortunate. I've had people who treated me terribly, exactly as you're saying. I didn't like it. And I filed it away as like, I don't want to treat people this way. And Andrew Marlowe on Castle was like a huge mentor and gave me every teachable moment that he could. Rena Mimoon, who I worked for on Mistresses and Pushing Daisies, Brian Fuller on Pushing Daisies. Those 3 people in particular were just really good to me in terms of like taking me under their wing and explaining what their process was and giving me a chance to like do it again and do it right and learn from my mistakes. I feel really fortunate that I had those experiences because I think you're right. I think most people don't. And I've tried really, really hard to pass that on.
I know I'm just a novice movie watcher and I have no experience in either of your industries other than being on this podcast, but it's something that I can definitely relate
Jordan.
to.
Jordan's a creative marketing
yes,
person.
Exactly. I'm in
that's where she
sales
comes from.
and I'm in marketing, and it's just like you're speaking to something that I do have kind of a lot of commonplace with, and just being able to admire, like taking that approach. That's something that I value in my leaders. And it's something that I value in the person that I want to be on my team and like see the change that I want to see either on my team or on my squad. And so, it was just very wonderful to hear. So
I'm glad you do it too. It's nice to meet other people who view things that way.
It's kind of like passing the baton in a sense. Like there's always going to be this other generation coming up in that industry or in your industry. For me, it's sales. And so like, obviously I'm not passing anything down onto anybody quite yet, but I will someday. And so it's like, you remember those moments for sure, good or bad. So
yeah, for sure. And it's one of those, like, to me, and I don't know if you feel like this in creative marketing, like, my dad's a lawyer. Like I had a great college education in economics. Like if making money was the thing, I can go make money a whole lot of different ways. If I'm choosing to do it this way, don't we want it to be supportive and communal and fun and be able to like roll up our sleeves and like each other while we're working together? Like whenever someone takes this like really cool thing that we get to do for a living and makes it not fun, it sort of blows my mind, because I'm like, what else do you need in life to be happy? Like you get paid to do like the coolest job. Like, why are you miserable?
right.
Well, that was hard for me when I was in film school, and coming out of film school was like, I went there because I thought everybody loved movies, realizing it's a business and like business agendas and politics and everything in between, and fraternity rules and you know what I mean, everything that goes with it really surprised me, because I was just a guy that was in love with movies.
Yep.
So that was a whole different experience. But Jordan, you have some questions as well?
Yeah, I think you covered one of mine, but I related them a little bit more to the staff picks that you made, essentially. So I'll just ask two. What motivated you to adapt the real life story of Hildy Lysak into a family friendly mystery series? And how did you approach balancing fact and fiction in Home Before Dark?
That's a really great question, and it was like one of the greatest experiences of my life. So I, like I said, I had a weird little girl who like wanted to watch grown up stuff, and there, like, some of the stuff was just like a little too grown up. She was 7 at the time that the material from Hildy Lysak and Matt came across my desk, and so, and like the other stuff she was watching like made me want to die. Was, you're watching some of these children's shows and you're like, oh God, like, please don't make me watch this. But she loved, E.T., and there was some stuff that we did love to watch together. And so she was friends with a little girl in her preschool whose mother is a producer that I've known for a really long time. And the mom and I were having, this is one of those moments where like sometimes it's fraternity, you're talking about those fraternity rules. A lot of times I've been sort of shut out by those fraternity rules because like I'm a lady person. But in this case, it was like lady rules kind of got me in. Like we were like exhausted, hardworking moms having a glass of wine, watching our children kill each other on the living room floor. And she was like, I just got the rights to Hildy and Matt Lysak's story. Do you know who they are? And I had followed Hildy's story as a young 7-8-year-old reporter who had scooped a murder in her hometown when a man murdered his wife with a hammer. I mean, it wasn't even like, he didn't like murder his wife in a nice, clean, poison way, like, which is normally how women do it. He murdered her with a hammer, and an 8-year-old like reported on that, and her dad let her because he was a crime reporter. And I was obsessed with the story, and I sat down with Hildy and Matt. And it just struck me, it was something I was wrestling with as a pretty newly divorced parent. Something I was wrestling with as I've been in like so much therapy about my own family. But one of the things that Matt said that was, to me, the essence of it was the emotional essence of it was, he had covered Trayvon Martin and Sandy Hook and some of like the shootings in the Bronx, like really awful shit. And he had been so disillusioned he skipped college to go work for the Daily News and the Post. Like, this is a guy who was like obsessed with journalism. And, he moved his family out of New York City, all 4 girls and his wife, to Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, which is where he was from. And he could barely get out of bed. And he was supposed to write a book. He couldn't write. And his daughter started riding her bike around Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. And she, restarted the paper that she'd done in New York and scooped this murder. And that went viral. And he rediscovered the love of the thing that he had once truly adored and had given his life to. Her passion for this thing and the purity of it, the purity of looking for what is the truth, which is like, I realize it's very childlike. We think of that as a very childlike idea, but don't we all actually want that? And it's one of the reasons that, right, like I haven't subscribed to the LA bullshit is like, I want what the truth is. If the truth is you don't like my work, just fucking tell me. Like, I'm a big girl. I can take it. We are meaner to kids than we are to each other. And so, and I thought about every kid just wants to fix their parent. I think that's a really universal core wound for so many people. And that really was what our North Star was. Like we knew we couldn't put Sandy Hook in. We couldn't, Matt had cancer as a kid. We knew we couldn't put that in, but we knew that like her looking for the truth and that there was a truth to be found and that he was broken, that Matt, the fictional Matt, was broken because of something, and that his daughter could help him rediscover who he really was and pull him out of that. That was the North Star of it. And one of the most gratifying things that's ever happened in my career is Matt and Hildy and Bridget and the other girls calling and saying, this is not our family, but you captured the essence of our family. And that was really, really special. We're still really close friends. I still text the Lisiaks on a pretty regular basis. So.
But that was incredible to hear.
Yeah,
capturing the essence. And you kind of talked a little bit about the next one, but just can you share some insights into creative decisions behind setting the series in a small town and how the location contributes to the overall atmosphere and storytelling in Home Before Dark?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is also, it goes back to like a show running thing, right? Like you are presented with various choices given your budget, and then you have to make the best creative choice possible. It would be bad for us to set it in Pennsylvania because the best version of a true story to do, according to the lawyers, is either completely fictionalize it or make it like so true that like no one can sue you. We were like in that weird nebulous in between space. And so they were like, please don't get us sued, because Hildy had really made a lot of trouble in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. And we were worried that like the cops and all the people that she'd pissed off were going to maybe try to come after us. So they gave us Paramount Studios gave us, I think, 3 options for shooting. That we narrowed it down to Savannah, Georgia and Vancouver. And we went to Vancouver and just what we loved about Vancouver in particular was, all those Twilight movies are shot up there, and it has that like very real, but very magical feeling. And we wanted the show, despite the fact that it was dealing with kidnapping and murder and all this stuff, because like kids know that stuff happens. We wanted the show to feel magical while she's investigating murders and kidnappings and all that stuff. So we shot a ton of it in like those woods up in Vancouver, and we realized that the topography of Washington State was really, really similar to that. And if we just reset it in Washington State, we could indemnify ourselves against any legal problems, and also not have to like, for Dolores, we shot Dolores in Toronto, and that was like, it made me feel so like sure about the choice for Home Before Dark to shoot Vancouver for Washington, because we didn't have to do a lot of machinations aside from, painting out a Canadian flag here and there. It looked like the place we were depicting. And in terms of why a small town, I don't know. I'm a New York City kid. I'm obsessed with small towns. I'm obsessed with like things looking perfect, but actually being sort of like, the thing about New York is people are like, New York's so scary. I'm like, no, New York is exactly what it says it is everywhere. Everywhere else suburbs scare the shit out of me. Whenever you see like a bunch of identical houses in a row, something shitty is happening in one of those houses. So I was really excited to set something in a place and like really start to peel back the layers of what small town life in America might look like.
John, anything else?
No, I was just going to say that makes sense, because the city presents itself as like what they say is what they mean, but in the other environments, what they mean is not what they say. So yeah, I understand what the picture you're painting, because it's true. It's like they say like, oh, don't believe in stereotypes, but it's like, but there's a fundamental reason why people continue to talk about stereotypes, either in jokes or storytelling, because there's some truth to every myth, right? Something like that. I hope you had fun. We enjoyed having you on the show. It's been pretty fun for us.
This is really fun. You guys are great. If you guys want to watch something else, I'll come hang out anytime.
Nice. Where should our audience tune in, or what can they do for you? What should they do?
I would love for everybody to try to find. We're still waiting on our second season pickup for the Horror of Dolores Roach. We don't know if that's happening, so it'd be great if folks want to watch a little half-hour delight of cannibalism and murder and comedy. Find that on Amazon Prime, please. It came out July 7th and it was number 2 on Amazon for a while, so it was pretty cool. And I really hope everybody finds Home Before Dark. So it's one of the most gratifying things has been like random people being like, "Oh, you did that show Home Before Dark," and not a ton of people found it when it came out. A lot of families did because it was during lockdown, but then it sort of fell off the radar, and it seems like it's still sort of out there and like people are finding it. So Home Before Dark's on Apple TV Plus. And yeah, feel free to like look up my stuff and give me some green envelopes from Daredevil and I Love Dick and all those other fun shows.
All right, here's where we part ways and say goodnight. And thanks for your entry in the Feel Good Movie Month. We appreciated the reference. That's cool.
Oh yeah. Let me know how that
Perfect
goes
segue.
for you guys. It was so nice to meet you guys. You're
It
awesome.
was wonderful to meet you.
Take care. And we'll be tuning in. We're waiting for that second season.
Oh God, your mouth to God's ears, my friend.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey.
So we're going to wrap it up, but I think we should tell our audience about Feel Good Movie Month is dropping. So Jordan wants all your videos. She wants to be a voyeur and like watch you talk about feel good movies to make herself feel good. That's what.
Hey.
Exactly.
And you get to feature yourself on our podcast if you do a video submission. Yeah. I want to hear and see about your feel good month. Movie month.
You know what though? It's like a great time of the year, right?
It is.
And basically, I think for the first round is going to be a movie called Yesterday, right? Which is like the premise is. Should I tell the premise or just let them figure it out?
No, don't tell the premise. That's for next week.
Okay, I'll leave it.
I like to be surprised.
Yeah. What are you drinking?
Water.
Boring.
It's not a Stanley. It's a Stanley dupe. I'm not a Stanley person, so.
Stop endorsing products that aren't sponsoring us. Jeez.
Well, that was an unendorsement, so.
Next time. Stanley, where are you at?
Stanley, get at me.
By the way, just for your personal references, this Waterboy thing that's supposed to help with the hangovers?
Yes.
It actually sets your pH balance. I felt like I could feel my pH balance going right. However, I'm conflicted because I want to just like the lemon lime tastes so good. I want to stick it in a margarita, but that would defeat the purpose, right? You know what I'm saying? So,
it's like people when they like mix it with vodka in a water bottle. And I'm like, come on.
It's a recovery beverage, you know?
Yeah.
It's supposed to right the ship. And you're just like, nah, let's just add it, you know?
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe a little hydration margarita is a thing.
Best of both worlds. Why can't you do it?
Why can't you?